So guys, Outriders is finally out. Well, the demo is at least, but is it any good? That's what we're going to discuss in this video. First off though, thank you to everyone who tuned into the live stream Thursday morning. I'm not used to interacting with you guys in that way, but we kept a constant 600 to 700 people watching the entire time through, which I really appreciated considering it was my first time streaming. A total of 10,000 people watched it, which is awesome. If you guys missed out on the stream, I'll leave a link to it in the description so you can watch it. And as I mentioned in the stream, I was given an Outriders code on Steam to give away. So for those of you who are subscribed, leave a comment down below saying how you found my channel or what your favorite video is of mine, and I'll randomly pick one of you to give the code to. If you're new here, that's okay too. You can subscribe right now and say this video is your favorite, and I'll give the code away once I'm legally allowed to. But in the meantime, I'll message the person who won and let them know they won't have to buy the game anymore. Also, yes, I'm aware that Anthem died. I'm also aware of the Witch Queen delay and sunsetting no longer being a thing in Destiny 2. I plan on covering both of these topics soon, just with my writing and editing format. Plus the fact that I have school, it takes me a bit longer to make content than other people who just sit in front of a camera and talk. But today isn't about either of those games. As interesting as those stories are, today is about Outriders. All in all, I'm typing the script out having put about 5 to 6 hours into the demo. It takes roughly 3 hours to complete all the story content, but once you're done, you can continue out into the world, doing side quests or playing with alternate characters until you reach level 7 and World Tier 5. I've only played as the Trickster so far, with intentions to try out the other classes, but as of right now, that's the gameplay you'll be seeing, and it's where my impressions are coming from. Now, I can't talk too much about the progression and loot, because all the content we've been able to play is very early on. With the skills and weapons and gear we do get to use so far, especially the few of them that have mods on them, it all seemed really promising. The additional things we've heard about how progression works all sound good as well, but it's hard to have a full in-depth opinion on it this early on. Let's split this up and briefly try to cover as many important aspects of the game as we can. If you want to hear me talk about one specific thing, or you just like structure in your life like me, then you can follow the timestamps I provided. Cool. Let's start with some of the more technical things. The performance. Is this game a buggy, unplayable mess? So far it isn't. I've been playing on PC, and other than one server crash, I haven't experienced any problems. That doesn't mean they don't exist, but I personally haven't had any technical issues. This is a demo after all, not a beta, so thank God the game functions, especially considering that your progress from this demo carries over the full game. I'll leave my computer specs in the description if you want to get a feel for how Outriders might run on your computer, but negating cutscenes, the game never went to 30 frames or below. It rarely ever dropped below 60. I was often over 100 frames per second during gameplay on ultra settings. I did encounter a few wonky or frustrating things while playing, but I don't believe any of them were necessarily bugs. They were more so issues I encountered because of the button layout, map design, and things like that, which I will elaborate on later in the video. Overall though, Outriders is a functioning game. That should be expected, but you never know nowadays. I think one thing many games in this genre have is a distinctive visual style. Despite all its shortcomings, Anthem was an absolutely gorgeous game. Destiny, while less realistic looking than Anthem, is also distinctively beautiful. And the same can be said about Borderlands or Warframe. They can all be identified rather easily just by looking at the landscapes. The graphics in Outriders are not photorealistic like they were in Anthem, but they also aren't particularly distinctive like Borderlands or Destiny. Trailers for the game do show what appears to be a wide variety of locations, but as of right now, Enoch is very tan. It's certainly not awful. At times, I thought there were a few things visually striking, but comparatively speaking, Outriders doesn't use colors and landscapes as creatively as other games. Often, it feels much more generic. The same can be said about things such as the UI and even some of the sounds. It's all functional, but it isn't incredibly unique either. I'm not saying it's bad, it's just more generic. Environments are also frequently scattered with lots of very video gamey cover. It reminds me of Uncharted 1 a lot, where you always knew when enemies were gonna come out because there were all of a sudden tons of randomly placed waist-high walls everywhere. So overall the presentation is pretty but it gets the job done. Plus, as I mentioned before, the trailer shows a lot of more varied environments, so this could just be a demo related thing. Unlike other games in this genre, Outriders distinguishes itself by trying to actually have a story. And even just by playing the first few hours, I think hopping into this game as a solo player, attempting to play through a single player campaign is much easier than it is in games like The Division or Anthem. Unfortunately though, the story is largely generic as well so far. I enjoyed the prologue from a narrative standpoint, but the game takes a pretty long time to get the gameplay really going. There are a lot of cutscenes early on in the game, but the story still ends up feeling pretty hard to follow. Now, Outriders does have a fully functioning codex menu filled with information on characters, enemies, locations, etc., which is really awesome. I've wanted Destiny to have this for the longest time now. I just want to read up on a dreg sometime, you know? Because of that, the Outriders world feels more fleshed out, despite the main story feeling pretty, again, generic. It's kind of hard to connect with the main character so far, despite them throwing in some attempts at dark humor. Outriders also features a decent amount of side quests so far, and while they are nowhere near as complex as they are in other games, I enjoyed them for the most part, and I'm glad they put the effort in to give us some optional dialogue choices. I can tell effort was put into it, which is something I appreciate. I just don't know if I'm really connecting with it just yet. Right now, much of it feels very generic, stoic hero man tries to uncover a confusing sci-fi mystery thing. But at the end of the day, these kinds of games live or die on the gameplay. And thankfully, the gameplay here is a big strength of this game. The open world you play in isn't really an open world. Instead, you're placed in these relatively linear sectors and you travel throughout them, kind of going through doors, like these small loading screens, putting down flags that serve as fast travel points for you. Right now, it doesn't seem as though any random public event-esque randomized encounters happen. The game gives you 8 abilities per class, and you can equip 3 of them at a time. I like the leveling, I like the world tier system, I like the ways in which abilities are unlocked. We only get 2 skill points in the demo, but that along with the mod system looks to allow us to personalize our builds even more so. The gunplay feels really good. The cover system, when it works, sometimes I don't feel like it works, but when it does, it's good. I do think some of the game's animations look a bit wonky at times, but graphics and looks aren't everything. The controls feel responsive, and that's what's most important while playing. The abilities we do get access to are straight up awesome as well. It's incredibly satisfying to chain these together and use them to take down multiple enemies at once. You truly do feel powerful, and when you get the hang of things, the game becomes incredibly fun to play. And I hope this only gets better and more advanced once we get access to greater customization through more abilities, the full skill tree, and powerful weapons and gear with some mods equipped. The gameplay is not perfect though. While the world tier system works to balance things out, certain encounters do feel artificially cheaper and more difficult than others. I think this has less to do with the core gameplay and more to do with the level design and additional mechanics. There were a few instances on the stream where I got stuck because enemies just surrounded me in a tight space. The lack of verticality also plays to your disadvantage at times. In just my few hours playing, there were a couple of times where I tried to escape enemies by jumping off a small ledge, only to find out there's like an invisible wall there, and my only way to escape it was to go down the one path the enemy is standing right in front of. Not only that, but a couple of times I would be mowing through groups of low tier enemies in these very wide open spaces, only to enter a boss room that is significantly smaller in comparison, leaving very little room to find cover. You pretty much just have to sprint and run around the whole time. Additionally, some of the boss's abilities involved spawning electric shocks or fire tornadoes that chase you, and at times it feels like they move faster than you can run. I don't know if that's just me, but I felt like that. And this combined with the smaller space makes using the otherwise good cover system practically obsolete, especially when you're playing as Trickster, who can only regen health by killing an enemy that's close to them. This could just be a Trickster related problem, but on several occasions I found myself one-on-one with a boss or powerful enemy with absolutely no way to get any health back. I don't necessarily have any issue with the mechanics set in place for health regeneration in Outriders. I think in concept it's a cool idea, but I think it attributed to some of the more frustrating encounters in the game. I'd be interested to see how playing as the Technomancer is, because they can heal through an ability and also heal just by doing damage. Plus they're a long range class, so they can more than likely use cover effectively more often, unlike the trickster who has to run around constantly like a chicken with its head cut off. Sometimes I feel like the trickster's way of getting back health is a bit counterintuitive because you have to run at the enemies and kill them up close to get health back, but running up to them and leaving cover also causes you to take damage every single time. I'm gonna give the game the benefit of the doubt for now because overall the core gameplay is really good, but right now I wonder if Trickster is a little underpowered compared to the others, especially Technomancer. And I'm concerned higher level play dealing with more mechanic-based encounters will feel claustrophobic and cheap. I'm sure playing in a team would change the dynamic too, but sometimes it feels like the difficulty spikes pretty drastically depending on the map design and the way your class regenerates health, not necessarily having much to do with skill. There are a few extra features in Outriders that are definitely worth mentioning. The game allows you to rebind your keys. It has plenty of graphical customization options on PC. Most importantly, the game offers crossplay, so you can play with your friends regardless of what platforms you're playing on. These are all really good features. Plus, no microtransactions. But what's the overall verdict on Outriders so far? I'm not going to definitively say one thing or the other until the full game comes out, but as of right now, I think there's one thing to take away. While Outriders fits into the same looter genre as Destiny and Anthem and The Division, it feels different from those games. Unlike all of those, this is not a live service game. This game is not a Destiny killer, as the internet likes to call every looter shooter that comes out these days. I don't think it's even trying to be. Outriders feels much more like a standalone experience, a game with a beginning and an end, a smaller budget addition to the genre. Over the next few weeks, I'm willing to bet you'll hear a lot of different opinions. Some content creators will praise Outriders and get the hype really high for this game, while others are going to trash it and mark it as another Anthem. I don't think you should listen to either one of these people. This is the truth about Outriders. If you don't like games like Destiny or The Division or Anthem, you probably won't like this game, despite it being different from those in many areas. If you made it this far into the video, the chances are high that you like some of those other games. If that's the case, you will enjoy playing Outriders too. And it's a game that can exist alongside Destiny and those other ones. I don't think it's fair to tell people this game is the greatest thing ever and they have to buy it, but I also don't think it's fair to label it as another Anthem without even playing it, something I've seen several people on my videos already doing. The demo is out on all platforms, it's freaking free, and your progress carries over to the full game, so it's basically the equivalent of buying the game and trying it for a few hours. If you're on the fence, there's absolutely no reason not to try it. There is plenty of content in the demo to play. If you're enjoying yourself, buy the full game. If not, oh well, at least you gave it a try. You won't be losing any money doing so. Those are my thoughts. Form your own opinions, people. I know by doing what I just said, you'd technically be listening to me, an outside source. But you get the point. For those of you who have played Outriders, I'm curious to hear what you think so far. I will continue to cover the game and release a full in-depth review of the full game once it comes out. If you play the demo and you're still unsure, subscribe to the channel, wait for that video, and then hopefully I can help you make that decision. If you guys enjoyed the video, leaving me a like is greatly appreciated. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. Don't forget about the Steam giveaway code. Thank you guys so much for watching. Anthem and Destiny are up next again. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.